Hello everybody, and welcome to a quick little Wildstar guide. Now, this is a guide on something that a lot of people just don't understand the system to, because it's never explained at the beginning of the game, and it's a pretty simple system, but like I said, never explained, so kind of mysterious, which is that of the costumes. Now, what you see that I'm wearing right now on my character, it's all a costume. The sword is a costume, the actual pieces of armor, those are a costume, and for the most part, it looks quite sick. But the problem is, people don't understand that I have different gear underneath all of this. You know, like the sword I'm using is the Tower Blade. However, the sword I'm using as the cosmetic piece is the Rest in Peacemaker. So you can actually see just my standard gear if I just switch to this. That's what I really look like, kind of derpy in comparison to that beast. So here's how you do it, right? So once you get out of the starter zone, and what I call the starter zone, which is about 6+, you will get to the point where you can find these guys, and these guys are the Protostar appearance modifiers or modificators. They're basically the way that you do any of this. So when you click on them, they come up with this interface here, and my guy is being shy and not looking the correct direction. However, what you see is pieces of armor on the left-hand side. You have the show armor slot. So, say, for example, I didn't want to show my helm. I can, as a costume piece, I could have that hidden. Or I could switch to a different costume slot and hide all of the pieces, right? So I could just go down all the way through, and my character would be running around a bit nude. And that's fine, because I'm still wearing the gear underneath that, right? So let's put all this back and go to our first costume piece. Now here, there's a few things that you could do. So you can first take a piece of armor or costume piece, like the Rest in Peacemaker. You see it says costume weapon, and it's for a warrior. So what you would do is you would take this and you would put it in the slot here. So you actually have to have the item to put it in. Now, I could put, like these pair of shoulders in, for instance. Let's actually try that so you could kind of see the difference. So I could take these shoulders out of the... Oh, is it gonna... There it works. So that puts my normal shoulders in, but if I wanted to take these and put these in there, boom. So now I can have those shoulders as a costume piece. They don't look too bad, actually. However, I like my strange shoulders, so we'll keep that in there. But as you can see, you need to have the piece in order to actually have the costume piece, right? So it could be an empty piece of gear, like this Rest in Peacemaker, where it has no stats on it whatsoever, or the Raiden set, which comes from the boom boxes here. Or you can have the Highwayman set, which I have the chest piece on right now, and that, again, comes from this stuff, and there's, like, the cybernetic eye patch, stuff like that. There's a ton of stuff that doesn't have any stats on it, especially as you're leveling up, that you'll find costume pieces, and as you're doing endgame gear, you'll find costume pieces, and you could put those in here, and you can make your character look the way you want. Not only that, but you can also customize it further. So let's customize my chest piece colors, for instance, and these are all the dyes that I've unlocked. Now, the primary color right now I have set to being this dark energy black, which I really like, but you can change it to purple or like a pink or red. The red's pretty cool. I like the red. You have the deluxe edition colors that you can select here. There's just a ton of different things that you can actually choose between. Now, notice some of these dyes actually cost more money to dye that certain piece than other dyes. So if it's, like the deluxe edition dye, it's about 6 silver, but if it's this black one, 30 silver. If it's this pink, 1 silver. So each one has varying degrees of what dye there is. Every time, by the way, every time you click on one of these, you can collect or click on multiple pieces. So like I can select the secondary color slot for each of these pieces, and I could set it all to be gold, right? And it'll do that for all of them, whatever the secondary piece is. But what you need to keep in mind is that the secondary color slot, the dye slot, may not always be what you assume it is. For example, the secondary piece on the shoulders is the eye, which I would normally think is the third color piece, but the third is actually these teeth here, like on the side that you can see. So we'll reset that. Wow, I just want to point out the red dye, the Bloodfire Red, 3 gold, 99 silver. Kind of intense. Pretty expensive, but the idea here is that you can kind of mix and match colors, and once you've decided what colors you want, so like say the shoulders, the primary color of the shoulders, I want to be red, but the tertiary color, the little teeth thing, I maybe want to have green as well. What you would do is then, you would make sure you click off that piece. So if I'm going to edit the primary color piece of the chest, I'm not going to have it selected also with the third color dye slot on the shoulder. So you would obviously deselect that, then I can now change the primary color of the chest to whatever color I want. So that's how the dyes work. Or you could just easily select up here and it would just check them all the way down the line, which is pretty nifty. And as you see, some pieces don't have a tertiary or a secondary or even a primary color slot, and they may only have a tertiary or a secondary, so it's weird how it all works. It kind of depends on the piece and how the piece was engineered, and that's just the way they've done it. As you can tell, at the moment, you can't dye weapons, so the weapon that you have in there is the weapon that it's going to be. One thing to note about costumes, which is really important, is when you're in a PvP match, they are completely disabled, so don't expect to go into PvP looking like you're completely naked. It's just going to default to whatever gear you're currently wearing. So that's how that works. The very last thing, and here's a good example of someone who is obviously nude. That's their tag there, but that's how they're running around, even though you can click on them and you can inspect them and see that they are in fact wearing gear. So that's how that all works. Now, the last thing to note is that you have a dye vendor, and it's in the major cities. You'll notice it. Like right now I'm in Ilium, but if you were in Thade, you would see kind of the same thing. So you go pretty much next to the stylist, right? You have the dye vendor, and there'll be a ton of dye on here that you could just buy. It's all really cheap, it's really easy to get, and it's kind of a good starting point for dye. However, if you want more dye for the customization stuff, like the stuff that I have here, whether it's the deluxe edition, which you can only get from having the digital deluxe, and you can upgrade that in your game at any point when you go into your account if you don't already have it. But if you want something like the black dye, it's rare drops in the game. So a lot of the dyes that you'll find are actually bound, and you can't do anything about that, unfortunately. So if you're looking for a very specific color that's usually bound when people get it, then you're not going to be able to find it unless you get it yourself. So out of like dye bags by doing challenges. But for the most part, you can find a lot of dye on the auction house, and that's one of the ways to do it aside from having to farm out dye bags. And you'll eventually get probably enough colors to the point where you're starting to get duplicates, and it soul bounds itself, so you can't really do anything about that, unfortunately. However, that's how the whole costume system works. It's basically just a piece of gear in a costume slot. You gain additional costume slots as you get up in levels. You start out with 1. When you actually get, I think, level 7, it's level 6 or 7, and then you obviously get more as you go. I'm level 50, so I have 6. That's the maximum that I have gotten. But I don't have enough costume pieces to fill out 6. So it's kind of up to you on how you want to customize your character. I like this more than some other systems in different MMOs. It does a very good job of giving you a lot of range of customization without having to adjust like the standard piece that you're wearing itself, whether it be like a transmogrify or in Star Wars, like switching out modifications on that piece. So this is a clever system, and I like the dyeing system on it too. However, with that being said, hopefully that will help you guys out if you've been confused about the whole costume sets and how all that works. And in the future, if this changes, I'll make sure I update this guide. But with that being said, we shall see you guys next time.